we were talking about the organic and inorganic compounds. You know that human body consists of both organic and inorganic compounds, right? In last class, we have talked about a few important inorganic compounds like water, which is the most common and most important inorganic compound. We have talked about water in last class. We have talked about the acids and bases. Those are also inorganic compounds. So water, acids, bases, those are inorganic compounds. Okay. Organic compounds are proteins, carbohydrates, fats, and nucleic acids. So those are the organic compounds of our body. So we'll talk about proteins, carbohydrates, and fats a little bit. First, carbohydrates. If you see the chemical structure of a carbohydrate molecule, you will see it has a carbon, it has carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, CHO. Those elements are present in the carbohydrate. Carbohydrates can be present in three forms. There are three classes of carbohydrates: monosaccharides, disaccharides, and polysaccharides. Monosaccharides are the simplest forms of carbohydrates. Simplest. The most simple form is monosaccharide. Example of monosaccharide is the glucose. Glucose is the simplest form of carbohydrate, which is a monosaccharide. Disaccharides are formed by the monosaccharides. Two monosaccharides join to form disaccharides. Disaccharides are maltose, lactose, galactose. So, maltose, lactose, galactose, those are disaccharides. Polysaccharides are the most complex and largest form of carbohydrate molecules. Most complex and largest form of carbohydrate molecules are polysaccharides. Example: glycogen, starch, those are polysaccharides. So glycogen and starch, those are polysaccharides. Okay. So just know which elements are present in a carbohydrate molecule, CH and O, and carbohydrates are present in three forms and their examples. Lipids or fats. If you see the chemical structure of a lipid or a fat molecule, you will find carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and sometimes you will find P, phosphorus. So that is the chemical structure of a lipid. Now we know that lipids are insoluble in water. Lipid does not mix with water, right? Fats don't mix with water. Lipids in our body are mainly present in three forms. What are the three main forms of lipids in our body or fats in our body? The most common form is the triglyceride or neutral fats. TG, triglycerides or neutral fats, the most common. Another form, common form, is phospholipids, and the other one is steroids. So there are three main forms how the fats are present in our body. Now, among those three, triglyceride is the most common, right? Now, triglycerides are mainly found in the blood, or present in the blood. Phospholipids are mainly found in the cell membrane. Cell membranes are formed by phospholipids. Steroids are found in the hormones. Hormones are synthesized by steroids. So, those are three main types of fats or lipids. Now, if you break a triglyceride, you will get fatty acids. So, if you break a triglyceride, you will get fatty acids and glycerol. So, fatty acids and glycerol form the triglycerides. Fatty acids can be present in two forms: saturated fatty acids and unsaturated fatty acids. What's the difference between the saturated and unsaturated fatty acids? There are a few differences you need to know. If you see the chemical structure of a saturated fatty acid, you will see that carbon atoms are connected to each other or joined to each other by single bonds. You remember in last class I said that the main difference between organic and inorganic in terms of the chemical structure, inorganic compounds usually don't have carbon, right? But organic compounds have many carbon atoms. You remember I said that? So, for example, inorganic acid, hydrochloric acid, HCl, right? No carbon is there. Base, sodium hydroxide, NaOH, no carbon, right? So, those water, no carbon. Those are the inorganic compounds. But organic compounds, all organic compounds have many carbons, and carbons are attached to each other. In case of saturated fatty acids, the carbon atoms are attached to each other by single bond. In case of unsaturated fatty acid, many places you will see that the carbons are attached to each other by double bonds. So both single and double bonds are present in unsaturated fatty acids. That is one difference. Number two, why we say saturated and unsaturated? The saturated fatty acids are saturated with hydrogen. That means heavily filled with hydrogen. You know, when we say this solution is saturated, have you heard that word? Saturated solution, saturated with sugar. That means what? It is heavily filled with sugar. If you add more, it will not take it. It will not take any more. It's already saturated, right? So, saturated fatty acids are saturated with or heavily filled with hydrogen. Unsaturated fatty acids have less or reduced amount of hydrogen. That's why you can add more. So, those are two structural differences. Now, a few other differences. Saturated fatty acids come from animal sources. Non-saturated fatty acids usually come from non-animal sources, like from the plants. Okay, saturated come from what? Animal sources, and non-saturated from non-animal, example, plants. Saturated fatty acids are present in solid form in normal room temperature, like cheese or butter, right? Those are saturated fatty acids. They are present in solid form in normal room temperature. Unsaturated fatty acids are present in liquid form in normal room temperature. Saturated fatty acids are harmful for the body. They are harmful because they like to get attached to the wall of the blood vessel. So if this is your artery, the saturated fatty acids love to get attached to the wall and make the artery narrow or even can block it, okay? So that's why saturated fatty acids are not good. They could be harmful. Unsaturated fatty acids are not so. So saturated fatty acids are very yummy, you know, right? Very tasty, delicious. Unsaturated fatty acids are not that. So who is your friend? Who is your enemy? Saturated is what?
Is your enemy.
Enemy? Okay. Yeah, I asked in another section, a girl said saturated. I said, why? Because she loves to eat. Okay? So she loves delicious food. But no friend is real friend if the friend kills you. Right? Give you the pleasure and kills you. Okay, so those are few differences between the saturated and unsaturated fatty acids. Proteins. If you see the chemical structure or formula of a protein molecule, you will find CHO and N. That means carbon, hydrogen, oxygen as well as nitrogen is presented. You know that proteins are formed by amino acids. Amino acids joined together. In last class I showed you when I talked about synthesis reaction. Amino acids joined to each other by peptide bonds or links. To form protein molecule. Okay, so this whole thing is a protein molecule and these are amino acids. They join to each other to form the protein molecule. Now, if you see the structure of an amino acid, just take one amino acid and see the structure. Amino acid, okay, has two chemical groups in it. Amino group and carboxyl group. Okay, so amino acid consists of two chemical groups. One is amino group, another is carboxyl group. Amino group is NH. It could be NH2, NH3 or NH4. So these are amino. Carboxyl group is COOH. Okay, so amino acid consists of amino and carboxyl groups. Human body needs 20 different types of amino acids. Among those 20 different types of amino acids our body needs, 10 of them our body can synthesize or produce from the food we eat. From the food we eat, 10 of them can be produced by our body. Other 10 our body cannot synthesize or produce. So other 10 we have to get exactly they are from outside without food. Make sense? So those 10 our body needs to get from outside. Those are called essential amino acids because we must get those from outside, right? Our body cannot do what? Cannot produce it, synthesize it. So we have to get exactly there from outside. So those are essential. other 10 our body can produce from the food we eat, so those are not essential. Okay, so that's the difference between essential and non-essential amino acids. Sometimes students confuse between those two. Just remember, those we need to get from outside, exactly they are in that form. That is the essential that our body cannot produce. Energy. Our body needs energy, and that come from ATP. So energies come from ATP. ATP is the source of energy. Why we need energy in our body? We need ATP or energy to perform the physiological functions. For example, we need the energy to release the hormones from the glands. When the glands release the hormones, glands produce vesicles inside. So just take that. This is a cell inside the gland. These are the vesicles, contain chemicals, hormone molecules. Okay. So why we need ATP to release that hormone? We need to move this vesicle to the cell membrane. Here we need ATP. Right? Anything if you want to move, you need energy. Right? Makes sense? So ATP. Now this vesicle is here already attached to the cell membrane. Now you have to rupture it, break it. To break, you also need ATP. So to transport and break the vesicles, to release the chemical, you need what? ATP. Make sense? So this is just one example. Another is to open the channels in the cell membrane. In your cell membrane, you have many different types of channels. Some of those channels remain closed. So to open those closed channels, you need ATP. Make sense? Energy to open the door. You see the top one is showing the door is closed first, then ATP will release a phosphate. And so this is the ATP, will release one phosphate, and ATP will become ADP. ATP means adenosine triphosphate. Tri means what? 3. It has 3 phosphate. When it will release one, then it will become ADP, adenosine diphosphate. And this one, the free phosphate, will give the energy. Okay? So you see that to open the channel or door, that phosphate will be released from ATP and will bind with the channel, and ATP will become ADP. To cause the contraction of the muscle fibers, you need ATP. Okay, to contract the muscle, you need energy. That's the middle one. And in many chemical reactions, ATP is used to do what? To bring the molecules together. You know, if you keep them apart, away from each other, chemical reaction will not occur, right? To chemical reaction to happen, to occur, you have to bring the molecules together. So, you see here, the phosphate coming from this ATP will bring the molecule A close to molecule B. So, the chemical reaction will occur. So, those are just only few examples how the ATPs are used in our body for the functions. So that's about the chemical level. Now we'll talk about the cellular level of